Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. It is, what day is it? It's January 11th. I feel like it's hard to keep track of the days lately. I feel like I don't know what day of the week it is, but maybe those are just off-season problems. I don't have my clock set to disc golf tournaments yet.
That's right.
Josh, how's it going?
I'm good. Disappointed the Broncos lost to the Chiefs, but very pleased that Vic Fangio is out. I'm ready for some change. Not gonna lie, I'm not gonna beat around the bush there. But Charlie, it was a pretty exciting weekend for you.
Oh boy. I mean, I rode the roller coaster in that game. The 49ers looked like the worst team in the history of the NFL in the first half. Jimmy G was just throwing up ducks. It looked like he couldn't throw. I mean, legitimately, I'm sitting in my living room screaming about how they need to put Trey Lance in because Jimmy's thumb is messed up and he can't throw the ball. And then he just did a classic Jimmy G thing, which was make an incredible drive to score points at the end of the first half. So we had something going into receiving the ball in the second half. And then, makes an insane drive at the end of the game after, he gets sacked. It's 4th and forever, and we've got like a minute 45 left, and we punt. And I'm like, all right, well, GG, good season. We're out because the Saints are going to win. It's already basically locked up. The Falcons were awful. So I'm thinking it's over. And then, defense gets a 3 and out, and Jimmy just marches it down the field, throws a touchdown. I mean, the NFL is so exciting, and I'm excited because I think the 49ers, when they play their A game, Josh, for the entire game, all 4 quarters, they are as good as just about anybody in the league. And consistency's been a real problem. But we get the Cowboys next weekend, and I'll tell you what, it's like back to my childhood, 49ers versus Cowboys. And I feel great about it. I've already got some money on Niners +3. So
that's what I was about to check.
Oh yeah.
So
oh yeah.
Your money's where the mouth is. The one thing I will say, ever since our interview with Mahmoud, when he was like, "Yeah, football's got so much downtime," and I kind of like knew that subconsciously, but now when I watch football, I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I'm not even watching football. I'm just watching commentary with a little bit of football sprinkled in. It's ridiculous. So, also, much to Matty O's disappointment, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Georgia won the championship last night. I'm pleased. I think they were a good team and they deserved it. I also like to root against Alabama because I root against dynasties because I think it's fun. Also sets up for disappointment, but whatever. I'm glad Alabama lost this time. So
what an interesting game. Did you watch a game?
I watched part of the game. I did not get to watch the full game.
I watched most of the game, and just great defensive battle. Both teams just so staunch in the red zone. It opened up a little bit late in the second half as I think defenses started to get a little tired. But kudos to Georgia. I mean, they had that brutal turnover late in the beginning of the fourth quarter, where the quarterback tried to get rid of the ball as he was getting sacked, and like he'd lost control right at the back of his backswing, and they ruled it a fumble. Alabama recovers like almost in the red zone, and I think did they get the ball back there? They either get it back or only gave up 3 and ended up going and scoring a touchdown and then opened it up late. So congrats to all the Bulldogs fans. It's been a long time coming for them.
Yes, it has. Should we talk about disc golf now?
I guess we can. Yeah. I mean, this is now.
If you'd rather NBA, we can change.
I mean, the Knicks won last night.
Hey,
that's
a
rare
news
sight these days. No. So yes, I would love to talk about disc golf. We actually have a huge show. Thomas Gilbert will be joining us later to talk about his Instagram post from over the weekend where he announced that he was gay. And it's been, mostly seen a huge outpouring of support in the comments on Instagram and around social media. But we'll get a chance to catch up with him about his decision to do this and, how the reaction has been and what this has meant, and of course catch up with how his 2021 season went, what he's looking forward to next year, or now this year. And we're also going to be talking about inclusion in disc golf as kind of a bigger topic. We've touched on it here, of course, in the past, and it's very much in focus right now for a number of reasons, Gilbert's post among them. So we will get to that a little bit later. But first, Hailey King. We had 3 players, big name players that had yet to sign. Hailey King, Chris Dickerson, and Katrina Allen. Well, Hailey King announced last night that she is signing with Innova. So there was a post, YouTube video went up on her YouTube channel, already posted on. She's on Star Team on the Innova website, and she's got this video with her out in California shooting a talking head video with the Hollywood sign in the background. And, she's going to be another top 5 FPO player on Team Innova. They now have 3 of the top 5 rated players in the world on the team, along with Evelina Salonen and Henna Blomroos. So a big move for King, a big move for Innova, Josh.
Mm-hmm. As much as we talk about how Innova still has had already 2 of the best FPO players in the sport, it's hard when that even if, their definition of a full tour still is not a full tour over here. It's several months, and then they have the European swing coming for the majors, but it's not every event. And so I think having a stateside top FPO player is a big deal for Innova. At this point, though, I think that Innova probably has the strongest FPO team of any other manufacturer.
Can it even really be considered all that close? I mean, top to bottom, I mean, they have, we could go through the list. It's a lot of players, because even after the top 3, they have a bunch of players in the next, in the top 20.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll just go down the list, right? It's in the Pro Tour standings from last year. So, Hailey King at 5,
mm-hmm. Jessica
Weiss at 6, Lisa Fakis at 8, Deanne Carey at 10, who was just promoted to champion team. Owen Scoggins at 12, Juliana Korver, who, by the way, little piece of news, Juliana Korver going on full tour next year, Josh. She's on Star Team. She got promoted back to Star Team and announced on Instagram, I think yesterday, that she's basically doing the full tour and all the majors and the Masters majors. So love to see it. I thought it was awesome having her back in 2020. I thought she might kind of go back to the freestyle world in 2022, but she will be back on tour. So then after that, Cat
can I just
Merch,
say, I want
Holly
a new
Finley.
signature disc. I want a new signature Juliana Korver disc.
What do you want it to be?
Well, it's probably going to be the JK AVR again.
You want it to refresh.
Right. I don't care what it is. I don't know if I'll even throw it. I just want one. Like, I want to support Juliana Korver, dang it. Sorry, continue with your list. I just had to get that in there for anyone at Innova who's listening to me.
By the way, she's playing at the I didn't know this existed until now, and I want to get involved. The annual Polecat Championships. And so I'm like, okay, I need to get a Polecat, number one. As an Ultimate player, I feel like I'm obligated. And I'm going to join the chorus. We need the Halo Polecat, Innova. Where is the Halo Polecat? No. How long must we wait for you to make this disc? It's going to sell. It's going to sell. So maybe I will go to the Polecat Championships as well. All right, back to the list. Cat Merch at 14, Holly Finley at 16. And then I'm going to stop remembering who's on which team as I get a little further down. I think Stacey Ronsley's on Team Innova. Anyway, Maria Oliva at 25. Like, they just have a strong and deep team. Yeah. And so I just don't even really think it's that close. I mean, I think Discraft can say, well, look, we have Paige Pierce and Missy Gannon at 1 and 3. And yeah, that's legit. But the depth isn't quite the same. Speaking of FPO things, really quick, Josh, we have to take a mulligan.
Oh, yes. Oh, huge mulligan.
Huge mulligan. We were talking about Prodigy and we were talking about their FPO team with Katrina Allen leaving, and we just did not talk about Heather Young, which is just an oversight. It was a mistake. And of course, Heather Young, top 10 player in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings last year, will be the face of the team presumably next year, and one of the top most talented young players on tour. So our bad.
Yeah, well, I think I said in the pod, I was like, Charlie, I mean, who do they have left? I don't know. Like,
well, a top 10 player.
Right. And here's the other thing that I think is noteworthy is that Heather Young, I felt, was more engaged in Prodigy social media and advertising than Katrina was. I laugh every time I see the ad where Heather Young is left in charge of the factory and she takes the discs away and gives them purple ones back. I think it's hilarious.
That's a good one.
She's a great young player to have on your team. Big mistake on our part to overlook that. And we definitely recognize how valuable she's going to be to Prodigy.
Is Hailey King the top FPO player on Team Innova?
You would ask me that, wouldn't you?
I would.
If I had to put money down right now about who's going to have the best season,
I don't know. Don't look for some way to get around the question.
I'm going to say yes. I think her combination of performance is Henna and Evelina are so incredibly consistent. They're incredible players. I think Hailey has the kind of explosiveness that she may even end up with more wins than Henna or Evelina. She's also going to have way worse finishes than either of them, in my opinion. But I think that she gets a couple of wins. Wins are worth more. One win is worth several top 5 finishes, in my opinion, in terms of the kind of publicity that brings, the storyline that writes, the way that you consider that player and see them in the public conscious. And so I think both on a marketing standpoint as well as how those storylines are going to be written, I think Hailey King is probably going to be the top player at Innova. It also helps that she's going to be here for the full tour, whereas the European women will only be here for part of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating to see where we've been deprived of the European players for so long that it's easy to forget how good they are. Obviously, Christian Tatar came over and played awesome. So we know they're great. That's not a question. It's just, it's easy to be focused on the players who are on tour in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And especially so when we're really seeing almost none of the European players. What's interesting about Hailey King, when you look at her results, she actually never missed the top 10 the whole season.
Really?
Isn't it? And it's kind of surprising, right? Because you have them in your mind, you remember these moments where she has horrible blow-ups and takes a 7 on a hole. And it kept happening at Worlds. There was that hole on the golf course, I think 15, where she kept going in the water and both rounds just got eaten alive by this hole. And, it held her back, but she still finished 4th. It's just that she was in a position to maybe win, and then she blew up her round. And so that's it's easy to remember the blow-ups a little bit, but she's so good that she's still coming out typically in the top 5. And obviously she won, I think, 4 Elite Series events last year, finished at the top of the national tour standings. She won Texas State's, DDO, Green Mountain Championships, and the Music City Open. So, she had easily her best season as a pro. And I mean, she's got all the tools to be an all-time great. She has the body type, lanky. She has the ability to just rocket the disc. She's a good putter. She's, I think she was second on tour in Circle 2 putting. Just really, it's a great pickup for Innova. There's just no way around it. A lot of questions about Innova. Oh, wow, how could they let Kona Panis walk? I mean, that stuff gets answered when you sign a player of this caliber.
In your article on Novelty World, you quote her video where she says, "I want to be the best player to play the game." Do you think that Hailey King is going to be the best player to play the game? Better than Paige Pierce?
When I watched the video, and I actually sat and I thought about that last night, I was like, what is the chances? So first of all, as amazing as Paige Pierce is and has been and will probably continue to be, I think unquestionably the best FPO player to ever play the game. I don't think at all that she will be the best to ever do it. It's not like going to be like a Michael Jordan situation where somebody else, LeBron comes along and it's still a question of whether LeBron or MJ is better. I mean, maybe. I think the argument is that like Pierce played in an era where she was incredibly dominant for a long stretch of time, which may be more difficult in the future. Look at MPO as a comparative, where it's harder to win everything these days. And there were years where Paul Macbeth won everything, like literally everything, all of the majors. So, but I think that Hailey King certainly has the tools to get to the level of Paige Pierce and perhaps surpass. Like, is it such a stretch to imagine Hailey King being higher rated than Paige Pierce at some point in the next few years? I mean, I don't think so. I think Hailey King has been clearly the player to watch for like 3 years as an ascendant player in FPO. And I think she's going to have to work on her mental game. It's a big part of golf. But from like a raw tools standpoint, as good as Pierce. Can't throw quite as far, but maybe could get there.
She's also, 19?
Right. Right.
Got a long time to go. Long career ahead of her.
I know. And like, imagine if Hailey King like starts going to the gym hard and like doing some serious strength training, like she will add significant distance and has the frame to be a great disc golfer, the like killer mentality. I mean, one thing you can't take away from King, she goes for it. Sometimes it bites her, but she really goes for it. And I think Dave Dunapace in the announcement video called her a warrior out there, and I thought that was like a nice way to describe King's game. I think we could see a career season from her even as soon as 2022, honestly.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay, well, other thoughts on this move? Did it surprise you to hear that she was going to Innova?
Not particularly. It's not like I was expecting it. I wasn't like, oh yeah, Hailey King's definitely going to Innova. But when you think about it, I mean, I'd heard that Dynamic Discs wasn't, or I heard that Discmania wasn't it. Dynamic Discs had gotten their signing.
They'd already done their thing.
At that point, I was like, maybe MVP, but I don't really hear a lot of buzz of MVP trying to sign anybody. Prodigy's looking to fill a gap. Innova's looking to fill a gap.
But if Prodigy's not going to re-sign Katrina, are they really going to sign Hailey?
I didn't really think so. And then I was like, so it's either a smaller manufacturer but I mean, someone of that caliber, she needs to get paid and have the potential to get paid from bonuses and disc and have the ability to sell a Tour Series Hailey King disc and the capacity that's going to bring. And so I was like, I guess probably Innova, but pure speculation on my part.
Sure. Well, there it is. Hailey King to Innova. The balance continues to shift. We still await where Chris Dickerson and Katrina Allen were heading. I think we'll hear this week. That's my guess, that we will know by the end of this week. So looking forward to hearing all of the rest of the news as players continue to make their decisions. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Thomas Gilbert joins us, and then we will chat about inclusion in disc golf. Stay with us. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Well, the Pound 2022 ambassadors have been announced, and you got to hear these names. Nate Sexton, Jeremy Colling, Lisa Fakis, Dustin Keegan, Zoe Andike, Cole Radalin, Maria Oliva, Vanessa Van Dyken, and Christian Dietrich are all going to be repping Pound. They'll be wearing Pound bags out on the course, and of course they are, because these are the best bags in the game. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to check out your options and get ready for their next custom drop coming at the beginning of February. Joining us now on the Upshot from Hawaii right now, where it is currently about 4 a.m., is Thomas Gilbert. So first things first, Thomas, much appreciated that you're joining us at this hour, and we want to buy you a drink of your choice. Just Venmo request me later today for having to get up at 4 a.m., and we will purchase the drink of your choice. Josh even said he could get it. You can get it in a coconut.
Perfect. That'd be amazing.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for joining us here. Great to have you on the Upshot. And it's I think it's kind of like a momentous occasion. I'm very curious to get your take on this. But over the weekend, you also got up extremely early in order to post on Instagram, and it's a picture of you with the caption "I'm gay."
Yeah.
Big bold letters. So kudos to you on coming out. What brought you to the point of wanting to make a proclamation the way that you did like this?
So I guess it's been kind of a long process coming. I've known that I'm gay for probably about 8 years now, or since I was about 12 or 13. I had always just kind of had this process of coming to accept it myself, and so in this last year, I've really started to come out to more of the disc golf world. I've come out to probably about 30 or so touring pros in this last year. And so I knew that it was in my New Year's resolution, you could say, to come out publicly to the disc golf community. And I guess posting just "I'm gay" was the easiest way to do it.
What would you say the response has been from this post, both on social media as well as just with people that maybe you personally know who may have reached out directly to you?
Yeah, it has been unlike anything I could have ever imagined. It's been so amazing and so positive. I would say 99.9% of people that have commented or reached out to me have been amazing, accepting, and really understanding the reasons why I wanted to come out to people, because a lot of fans can see the place of love and support that I want to try to create for the disc golf world, not only just for myself. And that's a big reason why I wanted to do it publicly as well, as to create a more inclusive environment for any other LGBTQIA athletes that might not feel as safe or as open to share with their community or their local scene. And so I try to make it as inclusive as I can by putting myself out there and opening up to everyone else.
It's still fairly uncommon to see particularly male athletes in sports across the spectrum, including in professional sports, to come out. And, it puts you in a kind of a small community. I wouldn't be surprised if you get some press from some websites that cover LGBT athletes or just the overall, because it is kind of like a big deal. So did you feel any hesitation given that, it is uncommon perhaps, or just concern about how people might react?
Yeah, I say I gave it quite a bit of thought, especially in this last year, of just what this would mean for me, moving into the future, about how much representation I'm going to be now giving to the community in regards to disc golf, and what that could possibly entail. If I'm going to be doing these interviews, and I knew that if I did take on this role as a public figure for LGBT disc golf, then it might come with some expectations as well to represent that community and speak up on some issues, which it's something that I'm willing to do, but as well, at the end of the day, it's just a part of my life that I'm living. It's been part of my life my entire life, and so it's just one small part of me, and I wouldn't want anyone to like look at me as a whole for just that one part.
We've got a lot of initiatives in different areas, whether that be women or racial minorities or economic status, in order to try and improve the inclusivity of disc golf.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel? So first off, do you feel like the disc golf community is at its core an inclusive community?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I wouldn't have felt open enough to come out if I didn't think it was so inclusive. I mean, everyone knows who plays disc golf and is involved in the sport that the community is so overwhelmingly inclusive and responsive to any kind of requests from disc golfers. I can't tell you how many times I've just made a post or seen someone on the course and have had an amazing day because of it, because they opened out their house or joined me for a round or who knows what. But it's always been really good, and that's why I think I felt so comfortable coming out as well.
And then to follow up on that, what do you think are steps that the disc golf community, manufacturers, tournament directors, the PDGA writ large, you pick who, can do to make the disc golf space more inclusive? And what are some, tangible actions that you hope to see from whatever organization that may be?
I think just creating more openness, more acceptance. I think that's really the only thing that could make other athletes feel more comfortable coming out. And so, like, just being an inclusive environment, because I think the environment is really something that can instill that hesitation or that fear of coming out at a sooner time. And I think one thing that's really big that is just a major setback for most sports is the environment of like gay slang used as a negative form of like describing stuff in sports. So like I still hear occasionally around the disc golf course, someone might throw a bad shot or get angry at themselves and say, "Oh, that was so gay. Why did you throw such a gay shot? Like, stop being a faggot." And so it's not really progressive to be using those terms. And I think that was a little bit of my hesitation just in the past of coming out rather than doing it sooner. Is just because I was hesitant when I hear those terms still thrown around on the disc golf course.
Shocking that you hear that stuff on the course still. But I think actions like this can help to start to erase some of that stuff more fully. I certainly hope so. Obviously this is just one element of who you are. I mean, I think maybe one of the concerns would be that like now you're like pigeonholed. Are you worried at all about that? Or do you think that it's like you make this post, you come out, and then you move on and we talk about your disc golf game again?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it was funny. The day after I came out, I went and played disc golf here on the Big Island here in Hawaii, and played with two local disc golfers here. And I saw that they had liked and commented on my post on Instagram. And when I got there and played with them, we didn't even like talk about it. They just continued to go on just like they would have if I had made the post the day before. They were super kind, super welcoming, but like it wasn't something that needed to be addressed. And I think that's the best kind of way to like look at it, is like it's not this big thing. I'm still who I was the day before I made the post, and they are still inclusive the same way, regardless of that.
Can you give us a quick review of Hawaiian disc golf that you played so far?
Oh, I mean, it's been really, really cool. If you can kind of like take a shorter course and then just add the coolest tropical trees like imaginable, I would say that kind of sums up Hawaiian disc golf, and just like the perfect weather, the perfect temperature, all that kind of stuff all put into a really fun course.
I played on a course in Maui when I was there a few years ago, and it was basically just like nonstop views of the ocean the entire time you were playing the round, which, I mean, maybe that's just all of Hawaii. I don't know, but it is cool. So quickly, I mean, Josh, I'm sure can jump in with other questions, but how was your 2021 season? It seemed like it was like some a little ups and downs, but you had some really nice performances at the majors. I'm just curious for how you felt like you played in your first year with Prodigy.
Yeah, I thought it went really well. I think it was still a steady progression, slowly up toward the top. I mean, I definitely had some slow points this year where I think I just either lost a little bit of confidence in my own game or kind of the stroke wasn't feeling quite as hot as other times. And then it was really nice. I feel like I had a big switch of game kind of in late August of the season where I went back home to Canada. I played the Ontario Provincial Championships, was able to win that event, and then I believe from that tournament on till the end of the year, I averaged around like 1037 disc golf for the rest of the year, and I think I won the last 5 tournaments in a row that I played this year.
Do you feel then this momentum, are you expecting a better early season coming in 2022? Or do you still feel warmed up? Or do you feel like you're going to need some time to get used to the tour again?
I think I'll have a pretty hot start. I think as well, one of the things I'm doing different this offseason that I haven't really in years past is being a warmer climate. I was in Florida for the last month of 2021 up until just before Christmas. And then I've been here the last 2 weeks, and then I'm heading back to Florida almost immediately after getting home from this vacation. So I'll be, I think, a lot more warmed up for the season. I have my practice regimen that I was working on down in Florida, which seemed to work really well for the last 2 A-tiers of the year that I was able to win. And then Vegas and Memorial are always 2 events that I kind of can have a strong performance at. So I think having this extra bit of practice and this extra bit of skill will definitely help me have a good performance at those events.
And going into the season, what would you consider as your goals that would define success for 2022?
Just to really enjoy playing disc golf. I mean, I'm in a place right now where I can't just kind of focus on how much I enjoy the game and working on doing it as best as I can. I mean, obviously, I would love to have a lot more top 10 performances, get on more lead cards, and hopefully, I think win an elite series this year. I think that's a very strong possibility and one of my goals for sure. And one thing that's been interesting is that I've been working with a sports psychologist who has kind of helped me through some of the mental game of disc golf and trying to evolve my understanding of not only the sport, but like of myself as well, to try to improve and really be as pinpoint as I can on the course.
What are some of the things that you work on with the sports psychologist? If there's particular drills or visualization, what kinds of things are you doing?
So for the most part, I guess it would be just a lot of like self-awareness and trying to like understand all the middle mental things that can kind of get in the way when you're playing around, where you kind of get overwhelmed or get really frustrated at something that actually doesn't really matter. So like one of the really simple tools that I use, like in South Florida Open and Chain Hawk Open in Florida, was just setting like a mark before the round of how many mistakes is acceptable to make before the round. And you kind of set it at whatever you want to do, 8, 9, 10 mistakes. Like that's going to happen at some point during the round. It's only human to make mistakes. And so if you happen to make a few that end up in a par, or even at worst, like a bogey, if you have like 1 or 2 mistakes, that's acceptable. And you don't need to get so frustrated or angry with yourself for having those mistakes. And it really let me kind of like move past them a lot easier than I have in the past.
So just to go back to your Instagram post for 1 second, have you had anybody reach out to you in the last couple days and say, hey, I'm a gay player too. I just wanted to say, like, I thought it was really awesome. And that, whether that's other pro players or just, people you've never met, fans of yours online, just reach out and say that they felt that was meaningful to them?
Yeah, it's been really incredible, actually. And that's one of my favorite parts of the response from the post was I probably got around 30 to 40 people reach out to me online saying, hey, I'm gay, or I have a gay brother, or I have a gay friend in disc golf. And I wanted to say that you coming out has been really amazing as representation for us in the sport. And there was probably about a dozen or so people that reached out saying, hey, I'm a disc golfer and I am still in the closet, but I wanted to say that your post was really inspiring and really encouraging, and it's just amazing to see a disc golfer out there that has the same situation that I do, and that they feel a lot more comfortable and of coming out to other people in their life because they can see someone who has the courage to do so as well.
What do you think, if there are other pro athletes in disc golf who are also a member of the LGBTQ community, what do you think is the best thing that pros can do in order to help create that kind of inclusivity? And what do you see as your role, and do you think that generally applies to members of that community?
I would say, like, in regards to my role, I think I've done kind of a lot, and as much as I feel like I can do, just be as open as possible, be as transparent as possible, and make it normal. Like that's really where we need to get in the sport, is just having it feel normal to accept that there are players like me in the sport who we need to include and make feel the exact same way as any other player in the sport. And so I'd say the only thing that other players and like disc golf companies can do is try to make that inclusive environment, because it really is the environment that dictates how comfortable people feel to express themselves as well.
Well, this is just fantastic, Thomas. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Where you're going to be on full tour next year? We're going to see you everywhere. You're going to go over to Europe and do the whole thing?
Yep, I'll be doing all the disc golf pro tour events. I think I might skip one pro tour here in the US because I'm planning on doing a 6-week tour out in Europe. Fingers crossed that nothing cancels that again, because it's been I've been begging for the last 3 years. I've been playing disc golf, and hasn't worked out just because of COVID and travel restrictions. But I plan on spending a few weeks in several different countries there out in the European disc golf scene. So I'm really, really excited for that, and hopefully see a new whole scene of disc golf too.
It's going to be awesome to have the European swing back and all the European players back.
Yes.
Should be a fun year.
I agree.
All right, Thomas. Well, enjoy the rest of your vacation in Hawaii. We're looking forward to seeing you out there at Las Vegas Challenge to start the season.
All right. Thank you so much, Charlie and Josh.
Thomas Gilbert with us here on the Upshot. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Thank you again to Thomas for coming on, and really almost in the middle of the night. So he did tell us he prefers to have gotten it done versus trying to schedule it in the middle of the day when he's trying to go out and play disc golf and see waterfalls and, drink rum coconuts or whatever. It was great to catch up with him. We're going to talk inclusion in disc golf in just 1 second. Really quick, wanted to point out, tickets are on sale now for Disc Golf Pro Tour early events. So Las Vegas Challenge and Texas State's Waco and Jonesboro are on sale as of today. I think Thursday Champions Cup tickets go on sale, and that'll be through the PDGA's site. So, that we're sort of see kind of a model, Josh, of ticket sales where you can buy the one-day pass, the weekend pass, or you can get the VIP pass, which lets you like walk with the players. And particularly on the wooded courses where there's not enough room to let everybody do that. Will be interesting to see how these ticket sales do this year. Are we going to see continued uptrend? Is it going to cool off a little bit, along with everybody kind of just maybe finally the things are going to slow down in terms of growth? I don't know, but it should be fun to find out. I've seen a lot of posts on social media about how do I get tickets? Where do I buy tickets? So you can go to the Disc Golf Pro Tour website to find tickets there, and the PDGA just put up a post. They are selling the tickets through Disc Golf Scene.
I will say, $100, I think, for the VIP pass for a lot of these Pro Tour tournaments doesn't feel overly prohibitive. Nosebleed seats at a lot of professional sports are $70, $80 right now. So $100 for VIP to get to be on the course, and typically a meet and greet or a signing session with your favorite pros. I think it's going to keep selling out. I know it did last year. I expect it to continue to sell out.
Now, let me give you this. The Champions Cup prices are out as well.
Oh, okay.
14th to 17th.
I've not looked at those.
So that's 4 days.
Okay.
A VIP pass, which gets you access to the entire course.
Okay.
And to follow individual cards. A special disc. The little Bushnell Bluetooth speaker, and a commemorative ticket and lanyard, along with all of the other things that you get when you buy a regular pass. $215.
I mean, that speaker's $60.
Is it really
70?
that much?
I think so. And a disc, there's your $115 back.
That's fair. You also, I see here that you also get some other ticket packages include this as well. You also get a Bushnell PowerView 2 10x25 binoculars. So you get some binocs and the little Bluetooth speaker. I mean, look, if you're going to make a trip of it and you want to go check out a major, that's not too bad, right?
Yeah. The Bushnell Disc Jockey Bluetooth speaker is $80.
$80? Yeah. Look, I will just refrain to comment. There's no way that makes sense to buy an $80 Bluetooth speaker that you can get the Bose one for $99.
So do you know what the Bushnell speaker does?
I have one
with UDisc.
I do. It is cool.
Okay.
I got to give it.
It is cool.
It is cool. You press the button, and it tells you based on your UDisc, which is connected by a Bluetooth, of course, to your phone. It tells you how close you are to the pin.
I also have one. I had funny money from a tournament.
Oh, nice.
At Infinite, I think, and I ended up getting one as well.
Do you use it out on the course?
I do. I use it especially on courses that I have not played before.
Okay.
Then I get to press the button and it works. It's kind of cool.
It's cool. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still $80.
$80. I mean, funny money. I like that. That's a good call. That's a good call. All right. So let's get into this topic, inclusion in disc golf. So we've discussed this on the show many times before, but it's been a big topic this past couple days. Not only because of Thomas Gilbert's post on Instagram, and I think everything that he said seemed so very much matching what I saw, which is lots of positivity and encouragement, not only from other professional players, but also just random people on Instagram and whatnot. And I want to say again, I think it takes some real courage to do this. And so kudos to him for being willing to put himself out there, really, and have to deal with the potential sense that you might get blowback, or have people say nasty stuff in the comment sections. But I think it's a good sign of progress in our world that that's not what's happening. And, just really quick, record high in the U.S. now support same-sex marriage, 70%. That's from a Gallup poll over the summer. That's up from 67% in 2020 and up from 27% in 1996. So we have seen a steady increase. And for the first time, a small majority of Republicans support gay marriage, 55%. Among Republicans. So you're continuing to see growth across all demographic profiles, age, gender, political affiliation, etc. Obviously, that's not necessarily quite the same thing as sort of acceptance of homosexuality, but I feel like it's obviously a pretty good proxy. And this in some ways is a U.S. thing. If you look at maps of acceptance of homosexuality in culture and same-sex marriage in culture, there are certain countries like the U.S. and Canada where there's increasingly widespread acceptance, and there's other countries where it's at like 0%. So just something to keep in mind. But we're going to have a chance to get into all this. But also, over the weekend, Paige Pierce actually came out with an Instagram post as well, where she talked about playing in a tournament over the weekend. And she played an FPO with a trans player named Chloe, who, signed up for the event, played an FPO per the PDGA rules, whatnot. And a number of other competitors dropped out of FPO and signed up on, I think, an MA3 or in one of the open divisions, the men's open divisions, in protest of a trans player playing in FPO because they felt it was unfair, and they've written messages to PDGA and whatnot. So Paige Pierce and Madison Walker and Tina Oakley all ended up going out of their way to sign up and play in this tournament, a C tier. And I talked to Paige yesterday, and she called it an anti-boycott. So that they wanted to show support for Chloe, who Pierce mentioned had been playing with her in a putting league. So she'd already gotten to know her a little bit, and wanted to make it clear that that's not how we do things in disc golf, that we are inclusive, and that, we want to make it so that so they basically said they wanted to make it so that Chloe was not playing on her own in FPO. So this, brings back to the forefront the conversation around transgender disc golfers, which was happening a little bit a couple of months ago when Natalie Ryan started to kind of emerge as an exciting new player in FPO. Natalie Ryan, of course, transgender as well. And there were a lot of comments about that. There have been a lot of comments about this, both supporting and detracting from the idea of transgender players competing in protected female-only divisions. So this gets us to just sort of like a bigger picture conversation about, where are we in disc golf in terms of inclusion? On the one hand, we have all of this positivity and support and, almost entirely positive comments about Thomas Gilbert coming out as gay, which, homosexuality is a much more mainstream part of culture than it was 15, 20 years ago. And then we have on the other side, a lot of, really sort of regressive comments and just sort of mean, nasty behavior about transgender players competing in FPO. And this really sets aside, I think, and we can get into this, like what is the proper policy decision about how to have transgender players competing in disc golf. But I have to say, Josh, personally, I'm not sure that the answer is everyone drops out of FPO and, makes comments about a man playing in the FPO division. That just does not seem like the way that we should just be treating other people, period.
A couple of thoughts. One, Paige acknowledges herself that it's important that we find a good solution. And disc golf is not the only sport grappling with this. Every sport is grappling with how do you define this and how do you create a set of standards that are fair and inclusive at the same time, that don't, I mean, because even the testosterone level measure that the Olympics used resulted in cis women being banned from events because they had too high of testosterone. Right. So there's no, I don't have a clean answer right now. Paige admits that she doesn't have a clean answer right now. And there's lots of debate and discussion about what we need to do in order to, in terms of divisions and rules as to what disc golf needs to take. And especially with our, participation in WIFDIF, we have to be a part in these discussions and defining that rule because it's an issue in international sports right now. That being said, if inclusion only extends as far as that inclusivity does not affect on-course performance, then I don't think it is meaningful inclusion. Thomas Gilbert's coming out post does not affect anybody on the course. Doesn't affect him, doesn't affect any of his competitors. And so it's really easy to be supportive and positive of Thomas Gilbert. With Chloe, I don't have Chloe's last name up in front of me, or Natalie Ryan, people believe that it affects on-course issues and performance and competition. And so that's where the inclusivity ends. I want to very quickly note that anyone who says, well, men will just start identifying as women to win the FPO event, I think is grossly mistaken.
It's actually comical, I think.
Yes. Like, the process of identifying as transgender is one that oftentimes comes with a lot of prejudice. It comes with a lot of difficulty, and it's very difficult. It's a difficult process, and it's something that I personally cannot relate to, but I sympathize with those who do go through those things, whether that be in the disc golf community, in family, or just in everyday life. There are so many challenges that trans folk face in this world, and nobody is identifying as trans in order to win FPO. It's not happening. And so while we do need to find a good solution, disc golf is more than just about the scores at the end of the day. And I think if we have the opportunity, and we all have the opportunity to be inclusive as we find those answers, and to err on the side of inclusivity and kindness to people who experience so much hate in this world, then if we truly are an inclusive community as we say we are, then that's how we should defer to trying to be inclusive. Because at the end of the day, disc golf is throwing frisbees, and there are a lot of things that matter in this life a lot more, and that includes being kind.
Yeah, and I think there's in my mind, there's a real difference. If you want to come out and you want to say, there are physical advantages that people who transition from male to female have because of the physiology of their body, regardless of the testosterone level. Like, these are arguments that are being made by actual, this is in discussion among scientists and how to deal with is there a competitive fairness imbalance with having transgender females playing alongside people who were born female? And those are difficult conversations to have. In fact, the IOC recently, the International Olympic Committee recently came out with new guidance around transgender participation in international sports. And I don't know that it made it much clearer. They basically said every sports federation should make their own policy, and it needs to have these 10 things considered: inclusion, prevent harm, non-discrimination, fairness, no presumption of advantage, evidence-based, primacy of health, stakeholder-centered, privacy, and periodic review. So good luck, right? Before, it was more of a clear thing. It was like, if your testosterone is above this level, you cannot compete. You have to have been on a year of hormone therapy. You have to have your testosterone below this X level. And that was the rule. And that's basically the PDGA rule right now. But this new IOC guidance that is going to probably cause significant updates to everybody's policies doesn't really specify that kind of stuff. And so they kind of leave it up to individual sports to make decisions about what makes sense for them. So, it's a hard conversation to have. I think.
It's really
but
hard conversation.
It can really be a separate thing from we have to make sure that we find a way to include transgender players in the disc golf community. What's happening now isn't that.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening now is nasty comments and just awful behavior. And I just don't, you have to separate that from your feelings about, you know, if there's a competitive fairness issue going on. And it's just, it's hard to see some of this stuff. Now, I think one of the things we talk about diversity and inclusion in disc golf, one of the things that disc golf does absolutely have is political diversity and a diversity of sort of like opinions about morality in life. And that's going to create friction because when you don't have sort of a monocultural, everybody on the same page politically and ethically, you're going to run into situations where people have pretty strong disagreements on this stuff. And that's going to create clash. But I think we should all be doing a better job of calling out the nasty comments, the demeaning comments, regardless of what their context is. I mean, we see this stuff with just comments about FPO players, like in the YouTube live chat, you know, talking about their body instead of their disc golf game. And like that stuff's trash too. That stuff is just garbage that needs to get deleted, pushed out as much as we can possibly do. And so there's just like bigger overarching things that we kind of have to work towards a better overall community, because I do think that doesn't represent, like, the nasty online comments do not represent the disc golf community.
I agree. The other thing I want to add, because I can already hear the people saying, don't make disc golf political. I come to disc golf to escape politics. Everything is political. How much an FPO player is getting paid now relative to the MPO side, that's political. The expansion of the women's side of the game in order to ensure that they can tour is political. And to say we should not discuss politics means that your politics are one that are relatively secure, that you can come to disc golf and not be reminded that your politics are a minority. But for people who are gender, sexual, racial, or other minorities, that is not something that you can just check at the tee box of hole one and forget is a thing throughout the course. And so I think it's important then that we recognize that everything we do is political. And so it's important that we are deliberate in our actions to ensure that we are being as inclusive and kind as possible in our politics.
You know, another interesting thing about disc golf is that there's a lot of religiosity. There's a lot of people involved, particularly from the Christian faith. And obviously, like, more conservative branches of Christianity have, still are in a lot of cases not welcoming of gay marriage, not welcoming of transgender people. And I think that also creates some of this friction. I mean, obviously those things go hand in hand with politics and morality and ethics in a lot of cases. But Josh, I thought it'd be really interesting to hear a little bit from you. I mean, you're a member of the Mormon Church. Mm-hmm. Mormon Church is certainly on the conservative side of the spectrum in terms of, you know, Christian religions. How do you grapple with areas in which perhaps you don't agree with the church, or do you follow all of the church's guidance and teachings regardless? So
I am a very active member of my faith. I attend church every Sunday. I served a 2-year mission for our church. It's something that is prevalent in mine and my wife's lives, in our marriage, and in our extended family as well. And so it is something that I'm very active and a part of. And I grew up, and I'm from Idaho. It doesn't get much more red than that. I come from a very conservative community, and I know that there are areas where the Mormon Church is more progressive. In Europe, for example, when I lived in France, that was definitely the case. But in my area, especially, it is very conservative, and it is also the central location of our church, right? It's based out of Utah. And so I think it is largely defined by, the largest majority of our leadership comes from conservative branches of the United States. And you're right, Charlie, in terms of same-sex marriage, the Mormon church is very conservative on that matter. And probably represents a lot of the 30% or is a part of that group of the 30% of those who,
don't support
I would
same-sex
say that
marriage.
Right. No, I would say a majority of my church fits into that 30%.
Right.
They do not make up a majority of that 30%. And so it's something that I had to spend a lot of time, I think the best word is grappling with, because to me personally, I support same-sex marriage. I support trans rights, and I support inclusion. I think that's pretty clear from a lot of my comments in this show. I am not a Orthodox or a even mainstream Mormon, I would say. It means that when I talk about these subjects and I hear the church talk about the way that the institution of marriage is undermined by same-sex marriage in our country, that it's something that I have to stand up for. And a lot of people have asked me, why is that? Why do you both support these things, and why are you still a member of your church? First and foremost, I believe that the central teachings of Christianity are ones that are based in love, but on the Mormon church specifically is family. It's a very, very heavy emphasis on family. Our church, notorious for meetings of all times of week, because we have so many different organizations that have meetings, your key to the church building is an electronic fob that does not work on Mondays for most keys, because Mondays are family night and is reserved. There are no meetings. There's nothing on Monday night. You're not allowed to hold meetings. You can't even get into the church building on most Mondays, because you were supposed to spend that time with your family. And if that's the case, I think that anything that promotes that family, and regardless of what it looks like, is something that, if we believe it is truly that important, then we should be ensuring that everyone has access to the benefits of family. It means that if we have teenagers who come out, I taught an early morning seminary class. It's like a Bible study course for high schoolers, and I had a trans kid in my class. And that was something that I ensured that he felt respected and welcomed, because I think that's something that's really important, is that kids feel that they have the support of their family when they come out as trans or gay. I think it's important that if we believe in the importance of monogamy and raising children, then we would prefer that there are same-sex couples who can raise children and are practicing other parts and tenets of the faith, even if they don't necessarily identify with that stance. And I think the biggest thing to me, I don't drink alcohol. That's a part, a tenet of the faith. When you ask somebody to abstain from alcohol, and I've heard members of my church, I don't think it's leadership, but I've heard members of my church compare same-sex marriage as being a sin that people struggle with, or same-sex attraction. And they say, some people are predisposed to alcoholism, and that's something they have to avoid. I have a real problem with that, because one, same-sex attraction or same-gender attraction is not a disease. But more importantly, when you ask someone who is prone to being an alcoholic in our church to give up alcohol, and we say, don't drink alcohol or don't drink coffee, you ask them to give up a substance, a beverage. When you ask someone who has same-gender attraction to give up same-gender attraction or any actions on that, and I get that the whole argument of it's only the actions on it that constitute a sin, but what you're asking these people to do is to go their entire lives devoid of partnership, companionship, and love. And I find that to be a tension with the fundamental theology that drives my church. It's something that makes me a minority in my church, and it's also something that I'm okay with, because I believe that there are a lot of people of the LGBTQ community. I know people of the LGBTQ community who are in my church. I know people who are of other, or find themselves in minorities in any way that some people ask, well, like, wait, how do you identify with the Mormon church? And they tell them how they get so much from it in different ways. Because I believe in the fundamental theology that's behind it. And so my goal by staying is, one, I think I get a lot out of it as well. But two, I think the only way that institutions become more progressive and inclusive is if we have people who are willing to have hard conversations and stand up for what they believe are right, rather than just abandoning those institutions as completely broken or void of value. It's something that's difficult. It creates tension between me and other members of my faith, between me and some of my family. But it's something that, and I recognize that sometimes it's hard, because the issue with religion at times in this discussion of inclusion is that religion is accepted as unquestionable truth. It is truth. But I think the way that we implement that truth and what you consider to be the most important truth are things that are oftentimes discussed, debated, and changed among the secular organizations of religion, secular is not really the right word, but the actual institution of the church itself change. And I think that I have a role in being a part of that change. I think I have a role of being a part of that change in the PDGA. And it's something that I am proud of, and it's something that I'm proud to be a part of, despite the difficulty that comes with it. I hope that wasn't too long-winded. No, I hope that answered your question.
I think that was wonderfully said. And I've attended church off and on throughout my life. I was in the Unitarian church for a while when I was a kid, and then I was at a Presbyterian church. I used to sing in an Episcopalian church, so I've kind of been like across the gamut. I'm actually I haven't gone to church regularly in, I don't know, since I was a teenager, since I've lived in New York City. But I actually find myself interested in returning to church. And, like in New York City, it's not hard to find a church that's like ultra liberal and, that you can find whatever you're looking for in New York City, as always, right? There's 24-hour deli churches. So I think I won't have a hard time finding a church that sort of like has alignment with my personal values. But I mean, even if I went to a Catholic church, I think that there's value in the spirituality and like community that church creates, regardless of like the pure teachings of the church. And there's always going to be messiness, and there's always going to be disagreements with certain things, the same way we disagree with decisions by politicians or, whatever the PGA decided to do or whatever. I think the key elements, the core foundation of basically all religions, is a positive way to live your life. And obviously there's different flavors of that in terms of like, what are the core teachings? Do you focus more on like the importance of family? Like, it's interesting to hear you talk about that, because that's not something that I really know about Mormonism. Mm-hmm. You often hear about Eastern religions, Buddhism and others, that focus a lot on the importance of family and of the, kind of like respecting your elders and thinking about the people in your past. Western religions do that a little bit less, focus more on the individual typically. But, either way, you look at Christianity, right? It's like, love thy neighbor as you would love thyself. Like, regardless of even which branch of Christianity you're in, that's the foundation. And I think people would be wise, regardless of whether they're religious or not, Christian or not. Like, think about how when you go online and you have a comment and you want to drop something in the YouTube comments here, like, I'm unsubscribing because I don't want to listen to you guys talk about this. Well, hopefully you won't unsubscribe for one episode of the many, many, many hundreds that we've done over the years. But also just like take a second and think about like, how is my attitude coming across to those other people? Like, how is my comment whether it's on the course or on the online comments or whatever, like, are you doing that? Are you following the golden rule of treating others as the way that you would want to be treated? And I think that fundamental thing would help a lot of the just clash that we're seeing on some of these topics where people are just being cruel for no real reason. And so just something to think about as we try to continue to make the sport a better place, and a place that's not, and we've talked about this many times, that truly is welcoming to people of all types, right? Can you welcome 10-year-old girls to your course or your league or your whatever and have them feel like they're a part of it? I think for a lot of places right now, the answer is no, because there's a certain demographic that plays disc golf, and we have to work to try to do a better job of bringing everybody in. And it's not to say that people are trying to actively be exclusive in most cases. I don't think that's the case at all. But I also think we need to consider how do we open up the sport to more people of all types, all races, all genders. So some food for thought today. But Josh, thanks for being so open about your thoughts on that, because I mean, it's not necessarily specific to disc golf, but I do think it's these, life is lived everywhere we live it, including on the disc golf course.
Yeah. And just to add to what you would say, and I guess my big admonition, for those who are religious, like myself, I think a lot of us go to church because it brings community, because it's a place of relief. For some people, that is disc golf. And so I would just encourage us all to ensure that we make disc golf a place that can be a community and a relief for anybody who searches for it.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Upshot, this week's Tuesdays. We have a very special surprise for you tomorrow. So I'll just leave it at that. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you Thursday right here on the Upshot.